This one was interesting because this was the first Audible YouTuber's book that I read. Some of this is going to be spoiler, just to warn. I am going to review The Savior's Champion. Welcome to the crypt, the crypt, the crypt. Right off the bat, this author I don't know a ton about. So this was recommended to me by one of my commenters, along with a list of other books, which I'm currently working my way through. But I personally haven't watched videos of this YouTuber before. So I'm actually going to save that for the end. After I'm done filming this review, I'm going to stop, go on my computer, and I'm actually going to watch some videos of this YouTuber and see if I change my mind about anything. I think that'll be an interesting experiment. Okay, so as for what was going on in the United States in 2018, which is when this book was published, not a ton was going on in the US. That was great. So one of the big negatives that was going on at the time was refugees being denied entrance and those who were entering into the United States being in horrible conditions, which, by the way, is something that is still going on right now. So I'm actually going to put a bunch of links down below in case you would like to actually help in any way, because nothing has changed since a certain person went out of office and someone else came in. Hasn't really changed how refugees are being treated, which is very, very inhumane. So if you'd like to do something about that, I'll put some links down below. There's always something to fight for, so please, please keep fighting. As far as how much of that is into the book, I really couldn't say. I feel like the last book review I did, which I will link in a card up above somewhere, that one was easier to tell when the author was getting into kind of political speak, because she actually has videos on her own channel where she denounces capitalism and such. And since I have no knowledge of this author, it's really hard for me to tell exactly how much US politics was affecting her writing style. So that'll be an interesting thing to discover when I watch her stuff. We have an actually pretty typical chronological setup of progression for this story, and the perspective of the book is also pretty typical. It's a narrator, but it focuses on the lead character, Tobias. I didn't see any huge, massive problems in structure throughout the book, which was good. It was a pretty standard structure, which I personally prefer. Yes, some people might consider the structure a bit boring, but it's practical. About the only issue I really took with the structure was where it decided to begin. So there is an introduction that shows you the past, that kind of gets you interested in the world itself, which that one wasn't too bad. I think what was actually pretty interesting, it was gripping, which it's meant to. It's meant to grip you, it's meant to grab you. But then it's followed up by the official chapter 1, which is like 2 paragraphs. It felt like it dragged on a really long time in the Audible, of the main character like tilling wheat. It was a lot of time spent on that, and like, I get it. You're getting the impression that this is a tedious job for him, and then it's kind of brain dead work, and that's physically grueling and exhausting. I get that, and it worked, but it didn't really tell me as much about the character as I would like. It told me about his job, which was temporary and very rapidly changes as the story progresses. It told me that he is in a monotonous task that he doesn't necessarily like. It didn't tell me anything else. Maybe having someone run through the field screaming at the top of their lungs, the palace just put something out, the palace put something out, like, I don't know, there's no excitement in the scene whatsoever. It drags really long, and I don't think we really get to any interesting interaction until the tail end of the chapter. I think there are times when you need these kind of monotonous scenes to drive home an important point, but you need to make sure that that point is worth it, especially this far to the beginning of the book. Like, it's literally chapter 1. I don't think that this is the time to break out in a monotonous scene. I think that's a huge risk, because it risks your readers just jumping ship. If I hadn't been reviewing the book, I would have actually dropped at chapter 1. Tobias as a character is somewhat concerning to me. Some of this is going to be spoiler, just to warn. Tobias has a sister, a little sister, and she has a serious chronic condition. Launch week, and I just found out I have an error in my second video. Hi. So this is future me, but still past me from you who are watching, but future me from me who was filming. Suffice to say, I made a mistake, and I'm totally game for owning it. I take responsibility for it. I can't record the entire, well, I could, but it'd take way too long to edit. I wouldn't be able to edit in time. So instead, I'm going to pop up a couple times throughout this to correct myself, because I used the word cripple. For some reason, my brain couldn't think of any other term to utilize, because of course I couldn't in that moment. And I have since realized, no. Disability. So I own that I made a mistake, and I'm going to go ahead and correct it. So you're going to see me pop up a couple times in this video correcting that. I want to be really transparent. I make mistakes, but I do try to catch them and correct them as soon as I can. So my apologies. I know some people are kind of divided on that word, so I'm going to err on the side of caution and use the word disability. So yeah. The sister has a disability condition. The money that can take care of the pain of the condition is insanely expensive, which is why he's dropped everything, including his dream of being an artist, in order to dedicate his life to hard labor so they can make enough money for her pain meds. I'm going to be real with you. The main motivator for a male character being disabled, little sister, set up so many red flags for me as a reader. Women are already used as motivators for a man's story, so that already doesn't sit great with me. Not because I don't believe, disabled characters should be there, but because I don't think they should be there solely for the purpose of motivating the lead character. As a character, the sister doesn't really have one. She doesn't have a character outside of her interactions with her brother. We learn far further into the story that apparently she'd been a blacksmith at some point. It might have been alluded to in the beginning, but only like one throwaway sentence. We don't see that in her at all. We don't see her doing sketches in her free time of like what she would create if she could. We don't see any of her passion. We don't see her talking about it ever. She doesn't have a voice outside of her interactions with her brother. She doesn't have a purpose outside of her interactions with her brother. She exists solely to motivate her brother. If you took her out of the story, you could replace her with so many things and it would do nothing. Her presence as a character, there isn't a presence. She is simply there as a stand-in for motivating the main lead, and it's really painful. This is sad because there actually is a meaningful scene where she talks to her brother about the pain, and he talks to her about like some of the guilt and stuff like that, and like that almost was a good scene, and it gave me a little hope because I was like, maybe this won't be as cringy as I think. But that is the only like good character interaction between the two. Then he goes off to do what he does, and she pretty much drops off the face of the map. We don't really see or hear from her again, except like one or two very short scenes where once again all the focus is on Tobias. She doesn't exist outside of him, and even though she is the main motivator of him going into the championship and whatnot, the competition, whatever you want to call it, deathmatch, even though she's the whole reason he starts doing that, she almost immediately stops being the main motivator right at the beginning, which we're going to get to now. So all of that was kind of big yikes for me, but it's not his real motivator. He actually filters between four motivators. Sometimes it's her sister, sometimes it's the fact that one of his closest friends is pretty brutally killed early on. I felt nothing during that scene because once again, this character also doesn't have much of anything other than his interaction with the lead, and only the interaction with the lead at that time in the story early on. So we're told that he's like his best friend and been with him through so much, but we don't see that. We don't see much of anything. And the character's kind of a jerk and extremely self-centered and totally out of touch. And while I recognize some people have those kinds of friends in their lives, it doesn't make me feel bad for him when he like doesn't make it. Spoiler alert, he doesn't make it. Pretty early on, actually. And that ends up being like a motivator of anger for the lead character at random moments of the book. Like when the main character needs to be angry, that motivator pops up. When the main character needs to be the righteous one, doing the right thing, he thinks about his pure, innocent purple sister. The motivators seem to only be brought up when it was convenient, and they very rarely were brought up during inconvenient times. It almost happened. His anger motivation, which is a problem, does happen once in a blue moon, but usually it still works out. The other motivators are boobs, a chick, because of course. There is a female lead, I believe, Lyra? I think it was Lyra. I'm sorry, my memory is... I don't buy any of the stuff about her like secretly planning for a while. I don't really buy that, especially considering how easily she will put absolutely everything at risk simply so she can bang the lead character. Yes, there are sex scenes. Be ready for that. They're awkward. Of course, to be fair, full disclosure, I am ace. So, I might just feel awkward during the sex scenes, and they might actually be very normal. I don't know. I don't know what the standard for that stuff is. It felt really awkward to me, but I don't know. Could have just been me and my perception, honestly. To be fair, that could have been me. There are lots of scenes of like drama between her and the lead that rely entirely on miscommunication and nothing else. And it was really hard to get through because the miscommunication was over something really, really stupid. Like, I can't believe you kissed this person that if you hadn't kissed them, they would have killed you and had the right to do so and your body would be in a ditch. But I can't believe you kissed her when you were with me. It was really hard to get through that scene because to me, I'm there being like, he could straight up die. Like if I was with a guy and he had to kiss another girl or he would be beheaded, I'd be like, do what you gotta do, dude. Really don't have a lot of patience for these situations where one character gets really pissed at another character when they're in life-threatening situations. Survival should be paramount. Like, you shouldn't be caring about whether or not you kissed another girl if you were in danger. And then the fourth motivator is, of course, the artwork, because he's really an artiste. And this is another thing that kind of ticked me off a bit, because he very much as a character thinks that I can only be one thing or the other. Like, I can be an artist or I'm like working for my family and I can't do both. And I find this to be a very self-pitying kind of narrative to have towards your art. At the end of the day, you're responsible for whether or not you do your art. Because here's the thing, the dude didn't even need to buy supplies. He could go home when he's tired from work, but he still has that spirit of wanting to create, and he grabs some charcoal from the fireplace and he makes art on the floor. He could make it on a bit of cloth. He could make it on a wall, on rocks. Like, be creative. You can make paint out of all kinds of stuff. You can make paint using water and various like natural inks, like charcoal, for example. You can make a black ink out of charcoal and water combination. Like, there's so much you can do. And he doesn't even try. And it kind of bothers me. Like, I get that some people do have that, especially when you have a full-time job like I do, and you're also an artist. It is tough, I'm not gonna lie, but you just need to be creative with what you have. You can do it. It's just going to be harder. But there was a lot of kind of like self-pitying speak for the main character of being like, deep down I'm an artist, but I can't do that because I have a disabled sister. And it was really, like, he didn't say it like that, but like it came off like that. It was such a huge flip in the book between vast amounts of gore and violence to these weird romantic sex scenes. It was bizarre. I don't think that this is a horrible book. Having said, I know it sounds like I think this is an absolutely atrocious book. I don't think it's atrocious. I think there's serious talent there. I think a lot of the descriptions, I think the action sequences were very well rendered, actually. And I'm not big into action in books because it can be difficult to follow at times, but I actually think that the author did a really good job on that. So like total props for that. That's a really hard thing to get right in books, and I think that was fantastically done. I personally think the romance was really rough at times. I'm not a fan of the romance element. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the book personally. My end takeaway as far as the message goes, I guess would be dictator's gonna dictate. I don't know. I actually don't know what the overall message of this book was trying to do, other than be an action romance, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't really think there was a huge like message takeaway from this particular book. So if the author was trying to do that, I missed that somewhere. I have extreme respect for the author for those fight scenes. I really deeply do. I think that the author does any more like action heavy books, I think they will do a fantastic job. I think they have a talent at it. I think the tension of the fight scenes was well rendered as well, so tension was good. I didn't pull much outside of that out of the book. Like there wasn't anything else that I found really entertaining besides the action sequences. Now I gotta go look up the author. Alright, I think I've watched enough of her videos on high speed to have a general idea. So, she definitely uses her channel for marketing purposes. She intentionally creates videos that are very clickable. So we're talking lists, and we're talking shorter videos that are more attractive, and we're talking thumbnails that are very clickbaity. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Get your coin if you need it. Like that is, it's hard out here as an author, I get it. But it is very much more business than my journey as an author. And it's very much from a point of authority. Like I'm telling you what is and isn't good in a story. Versus I think these things are good or not good in a story. So it's not a horrible thing by any stretch of the imagination. It's her channel. She can do whatever she wants. It's definitely not something I vibe with. There's a reason why I'm not subscribed. And there's a reason why I never ran into her, because the type of video that is definitely never got recommended to me on YouTube because I don't click on those kind of videos. Those kind of videos are definitely very not my speed. Overall, I stick with my theory that I think her fighting scenes are fantastic. I think her setting writing, which I didn't mention in the official review, but I'm going to go ahead and mention here, is also really, really good. I think that she does have an amazing talent for writing. I just personally didn't gel with her characters or their motivations, which could just be a personal preference. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or you want me to explain anything in greater detail, please let me know in the comments below, and see you next time.